the NFL also has to do something, and we're going to ask Howard about that when he comes on here momentarily. They're going to have to do something about this embargo. I mean, they got to come up with something. I mean, that should be a huge TV night for ESPN and the NFL Network. The NFL Network, which is starved for information, they got all that programming to cover. You would think that the NFL would do everything in their power to make sure none of this stuff is leaked in the course of the day. I mean, they get 2 days of coverage out of it. All right, you'd say that, but it ruins it on TV. I didn't watch the TV last night. There's no reason to. Why watch the TV? I knew what the first game was. I knew the basic Sunday night schedule. I knew Thanksgiving. I knew what I wanted to know. I didn't need to know anything else as far as that was that imperative for me as far as the whole situation with the schedule. So, I mean, from that standpoint, and the reason why I knew that is because everything was leaked, and, of course, I had half the team's schedule by the time I got off the air last night at 6 o'clock. The NFL, I don't know what they can do about that, but that has to bother the NFL. If I was running an NFL Network, which is obviously not necessarily an independent arm, but if I was running that, I'd say, guys, here it is. I got a big show. I got a countdown at the bottom half of the screen. I got a big show. Can you let me break the story of who's playing where in these games? And I don't get a chance to do that. So that, to me, I find interesting from that standpoint. So I don't know what the NFL could do. You can't prevent these teams from leaking the information of when they play and when they don't play. But I did find that relatively interesting from that standpoint. Now, I'm looking at Peter King, and Peter seemed like he did a pretty good job here. For instance, last year NFL teams had 7 3-game road trips. Okay, the NFL had teams, 7 of them had 3 games road trips. This year, there's only 3. New Orleans, Baltimore, and the Rams. All right, last year, 5 Monday night road teams went on the road the following week. This year, none did. So from that standpoint, they got themselves off to a better start from there. So last year is a little different from the standpoint of the road scenario and everything else. Now, this year, the byes start after the 3rd week. I think last year was after the 4th week. We'll get to that. Okay. This year, they're supposedly making the schedules a lot easier. 5 teams got good finally, like the Rams, Jacksonville, the Niners, Buffalo, Tennessee made the playoffs. So, in other words, they didn't have to lean on Green Bay, New England, and the Steelers as much as they have had to in the past. So, there are some, and then they got Gruden in Oakland, and they can run with him as much as they want. And, of course, they certainly did so. So, it seems like they did a pretty good job of spreading it around, and I did not hear too many people moan and groan about it in the last couple days. I did not hear a lot of moaning and groaning about the schedule from fans the last couple days. Now, maybe Eric in Philly is, and we'll get him on before Howard gives us a call. Eric, good afternoon. How are you today, pal? What's going on?
What's going on, dog? Listen, before I get to the Eagles, with the 3 teams you mentioned with the 3-game road trips, New Orleans, the Rams, and Baltimore, if you actually look at their 3 games at who they're playing, the Rams are staying on the West Coast. Think about that. They're at Seattle, at Denver, at the 49ers, all relatively close to home. You look at New Orleans, their 3 road games. All right, 2 of the last 3 are at Carolina, at Tampa Bay, relatively close to New Orleans, 2 divisional matchups in their backyard. Same thing with Baltimore, playing Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So, I think the NFL did a tremendous job, even with the 3 teams that have to play 3 consecutive road games, about where they're going logistically. And I'll say this, dog, about the Eagles' schedule. I'll say this about the Eagles' schedule real quick. I mean, they finished 3 out of the last 4 on the road, right? At Dallas, at the Rams. They got the Texans sandwich in between, and at Washington. If you're the Eagles and Jeffrey Lurie and company, when you play at Dallas, you instead of flying back to Philly, you go straight to Los Angeles, work out there like you did last year, and minimize the road trip in the last couple of weeks of the season. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm happy about the fact that they're opening with the Falcons and not the Vikings. I think the Vikings would have been a tough opponent in that first game with the chip on their shoulder. But I think overall, from what I've examined with the schedule of the team, I think this is the best they've done in a very long time.
And that's music. And now it's going to be music to Howard Katz's ears.